This is a Flipping Junkie podcast, episode 19. Welcome to the Flipping Junkie podcast. My name is Danny Johnson, former software developer turned house flipper, flipping hundreds of houses. Each week we bring you interviews, strategies, stories, and motivation to help you get started flipping houses and on your way to becoming your own boss and achieving financial freedom. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's get to it. Fantastic show for you today. I've got a good friend, recently made good friend, Andy McFarland on the show. Now, just to show you what I think about Andy, the first time I actually talked to him was on, not this last Friday, but the Friday before. He called me out of the blue. We have a mutual friend, Justin Williams of House Flipping HQ, who's got a fantastic podcast as well. And but Andy had given me a call, not last Friday, but the Friday before. And after just speaking with him for like 15 or 20 minutes, I was already, invited to go and hang out with him in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I'm in San Antonio, Texas. And I didn't hesitate to go ahead and book a plane ticket. So last Wednesday, I was up in Salt Lake City, got there about 10 o'clock in the morning, and spent the whole day with Andy. And he was willing to share everything, just talk with me about a lot of stuff. And I don't know that we had more than maybe a minute of silence in between any of the talk. I mean, we were just talking the entire time, and it was a great experience. And he really knows his stuff. I learned a ton of things from Andy during that quick trip, and he's a really great person. And that's one of the biggest things that I came away with. He works on all aspects of his life, and that's what I appreciate a lot about him. And just super honored to have him on the show. I'm glad that he's taking the time today to spend a little bit of time with us and share some of his story. And we're going to go into a topic of how much do you really need to know before taking action. So there's a lot of people that get caught up in analysis paralysis. They're learning about real estate, investing, flipping houses, reading blogs, listening to podcasts, which is great, and everybody should always do those things. I still do those things. But there's a point where you've got to start taking action. And so what do you start with, and when do you start, and what do you do? And this is something that came up. Andy, while I was up there, interviewed me for his I Love Real Estate Stories YouTube channel, which is an awesome channel. You should check it out. And we did an interview for that. And we got to talking, and we got into this talk about, for people getting started, what action to begin with, and the fact that just a lot of people, probably 90% of people, don't really take any action. They learn a lot about flipping houses and feel like they know enough, or never know enough, and don't really take action. So that's what we're going to cover today in this episode. I think it's going to be powerful for a lot of people to finally force themselves out of their comfort zone, because that's what it kind of boils down to, and start taking action. So we're going to try to dive deep into this topic, and hopefully you'll come away with a lot of great ideas and, more important, motivation to step away from the computer and do some things, take some action. So a little bit about Andy. Andy's a self-made real estate entrepreneur. He started out with nothing and currently makes 7 figures a year in his real estate business. Yeah, he rocks. But after getting fired from his last W-2 job in 2004, Andy went into real estate full-time and has never looked back. Andy currently focuses on wholesaling properties in 3 different states: Utah, New Mexico, and Indiana. In 2015 alone, Andy did over 150 deals. Andy's been married for over 10 years and currently resides in Farmington, Utah, with his beautiful wife and 3 amazing children. Andy enjoys being around family and friends and continuing to grow and learn every day. You can follow Andy on his real estate journey by going to his website at iloverealestatestories.com, or on his YouTube channel by searching for I Love Real Estate Stories, which is what I mentioned earlier. So let's get in and find out a little bit more about Andy from himself and get into this discussion. Enjoy the show. All right, so hey, Andy, thanks for being on the show.
And no worries, Danny. Happy to be here.
All right, great. Thanks for taking the time. I know you're pretty busy with things.
Sometimes. Some days.
See, what day is it? Yeah, Tuesday.
Tuesday. Today was an interesting day. I generally wake up early. I actually slept in today. Felt kind of bad about it, but I still went on my run. I've been running, so I went on my run. But it was actually really cool this morning on that run because it wasn't dark and cold. it was like sunny outside, and I enjoyed it even more. So that's what I get for sleeping in.
Okay, well, I'm curious though. You say sleeping in, but what is sleeping in for you? What time was it? I mean, it makes
I
it
woke,
sound like it's like 10 o'clock, but I know you
yeah,
were up way before 10 o'clock.
no, I woke up at 7:30. I
Yeah,
woke up
so,
at 7:30. I normally wake up at 5 or 5:30, but yeah, I did sleep in, but
yeah.
not sleeping in.
And Andy told me when I was up there, he's training for a marathon, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, we're going to talk about some of this stuff today, taking action and the importance of how you take action and what you need to know before you take action and things. But yeah, I hadn't run like 13 weeks ago. I'd never run more than a mile in my life. And now I'm running, 23 miles in a week. My long runs are about 10 miles right now in my training. So
After 13 weeks.
after 13 weeks, yeah. Yeah. I
Well,
mean, I
that,
mean, I'm kind of slowly working into the marathon training because my marathon's not till May. But yeah, I'm up to 10 miles on my Saturday runs right now. So
yeah, maybe next year for me. I've already got a lot of goals. I'm not a runner either. I don't. I like to be on the. If I'm gonna do any kind of like cardio stuff, it's just like the recumbent bike.
yeah.
I don't. But yeah. So you want to tell people, basically how you got started, when you got started, and what even got you interested in real estate? How did you find out about it?
Yeah, sure. So I don't know. I think I got started way back before I even knew I got started, before I even knew what labels and names for the stuff was. I'm an Army brat, so I was born into my parents. My dad was in the military. He was an officer. My mom was as a physical therapist. They're both working professionals, both educated. Um, and all throughout my life, I've been kind of different in my family because I've always been one, fascinated by money, and two, I've always had these jobs. I've always had a lot of jobs. I was a paper boy. I cleaned a bakery. I just did a lot of stuff, and I always collected things, and I always cared about money. Like I would buy bulk candy at the commissary. If anybody knows that from the military, it was tax free and it was cheaper. And I would take it in my fanny pack at school, and I would sell that candy. So also, I would like draw pictures on the school bus, and I would sell those pictures. So I always had this kind of like entrepreneur flair. But I said earlier, I didn't know what those labels were. I had no clue what an entrepreneur was. My parents are absolutely the furthest thing from entrepreneurial. So, but at a young age, I already kind of had that. I cared about money. I didn't know what to do with it, but I was like, it was something that kind of fascinated me. But when I was about 21 years old, I was playing basketball in a gym of a church, and some guy randomly said to me, he said, "Hey, do you like to read?" And I did like to read, actually. I said, "Yeah, I like to read." He said, "Here, you should read this book. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad." And I'm like, I thought that was the weirdest title for a book ever. It didn't make any sense. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But I said, "Yeah, cool. I'll read it." So I did. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and like for a lot of people, a lot of your listeners probably, it was a paradigm shifter. Like it was, for me, I'd never heard those concepts before. It wasn't that you know, my parents just didn't know to teach me those things because it wasn't in their paradigm either. So I read that book. It shifted my paradigm, and at that point, from that point on, I'm like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I just want to make money, and that was it for me. That just started it for me. And of course, in Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's not a great real estate book, but he does talk about real estate as one of the main methods of getting passive income. So I immediately started shifting my mind, saying, okay, I'm going to find a piece of real estate, and that was it. That was my obsession at that point, and I started looking, and I found one soon after that. So that was it. That was my backstory. And this was I'm 35 years old right now, so this was like 2002, 2003 that I'd read that, and I started that shifted my paradigm.
Great. So so you read that and you were looking for a house. I mean, what kind of methods were you using to find deals, and how were you looking at the investment, from an analysis point of view?
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know what I didn't know. Like everybody's starting out, I had no clue. I had no friends in real estate. My parents had owned a couple of properties just as we moved around. They bought some places we were stationed, but they sold the houses and stuff. So I really did. I had no idea. My brother, actually, my older brother, happened to be a real estate agent at that time. Like it was just random luck that he was a real estate agent, and he was a real estate agent working underneath a team, and the head of that team was an REO agent. And I didn't quite understand what that was at the time, but my brother was, he knew I was looking for a property, so he was like, "Yeah, hey, I'll help you find a property." And the head of the team is an REO agent, so he kind of told him what I was trying to do. And remember, guys, I have no money. I've got no business buying a property. Like, I got nothing other than this desire to buy a property. But my brother showed me a lot of different properties, and one of them he showed me was just he said, "Hey, this one's going on the market tomorrow." It was from his REO agent. And he said, "This one's going on the market tomorrow, and here's the price." It was 59,000, and I didn't know much about it, but it seemed like a good opportunity. It was an illegal, bank-owned, non-conforming triplex that was just hammered. And I'm like, this seems like a lot of opportunity. I want to do this. So we put an offer in, like as soon as it was listed for full price. And the REO agent was the head of his team, so I think he had some sway there, right? He pushed my offer in front of the bank, and they accepted it probably before any other investors had a chance to look at it. So there was, I had one under contract, and that kind of began my journey. Because I mean, it wasn't easy from even there getting it closed, but that was it. That's how I found my first one. My brother, my brother helped me.
All right. Did you make the mistake of trying to swing the hammer yourself and do some of the remodeling yourself? I think you
Yeah.
showed me that video, right? So what's the video you've got that you?
So we'll probably talk about this more later, but I've got a YouTube channel called I Love Real Estate Stories. So we actually put out a video 2 weeks ago of my first flip, and I've actually got recorded. I've got video from 2003 of me doing my first flip. And you said, did I swing the hammer? I absolutely swung the hammer. I had no money. Like I borrowed money from my parents for a down payment. I borrowed money from a friend for some repairs. I borrowed 0% interest Home Depot money because I needed to put everything on a credit card that I possibly could. And in between that, I worked there every day when I wasn't at my other job, like 6 days a week. And I enlisted any friends and family that would show up. Anyone that was willing to give me free labor was welcome at my house. And I called it my tree house. And it's the tree house because when I was a kid, I never built a tree house. I actually am not handy at all. My dad never showed me how to, do any sort of like framing, painting, drywall, any of that stuff. So on my tree house, my actual house, that was my tree house. I learned everything I've learned about real estate. And that was my beginning. So I did drywall for the first time there. It was horrible. I painted for the first time there. It was horrible. Meaning horrible. Like I had no clue what I was doing. I had no business doing it. But I just like, whatever. I can learn. I'm going to do it. And I had no other options because I didn't have any money. So yes, I did swing the hammer. I did. Poorly, but I did swing it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you took massive action and you learned a lot from that, I'm sure. So, which brings us into the whole topic that we're going to focus on today, which is how much do you really need to know before taking action, getting started in real estate investing and flipping houses?
Yeah, I've got really strong feelings about this topic because, as you guys know from what I just told you about my tree house, I didn't know anything. Like I really knew nothing. And had I known something more, and had I had a bunch of yeah butters in my life or people that were more experienced, they might have tried to talk me out of it. And I do remember my parents were not experienced at all, but when they saw the house that I wanted to buy, they had some serious reservations. They were like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And if they'd had any more experience in real estate and they could have talked to me about it like from an experience point of view, I might have backed out if I had people telling me the hard road and journey that I was about to embark on. But since nobody really knew and I didn't know, all I did was I could see right in front of my face, I could see the next day, and I just took action for what I needed to do that day, and it led me to the next day and the next day. So, um, yeah, I didn't know what I didn't know, and it's probably a good thing because I might not have gotten started. I might not have gotten started.
Yeah, absolutely. So that sort of, when we got on this call, I told you that there was a thing that I had seen that kind of resonated with me about this topic. And I'm on a website here. What website? Leadership and Learning with Kevin Eikenberry. So I've never been to this site, but I was searching for this thing called the Confidence Competence Loop. And it's got a little quick example here that I think plays in well with this topic, which is let's take a task you likely know how to do well, like riding a bicycle. Are you afraid to ride a bike? Likely not, because you know how to do it. So if I give you a bicycle and invite you to ride, you likely will do it right away. There's no reason to delay, there's no real fear. You just ride. But if I gave you a unicycle instead, for most people, fear would well up and they wouldn't even get on the seat. So, how do we get started? We put our butt in the seat. Action overcomes fear. And that's the whole gist of it. So it's like what we're talking about. Most, like you had some reservations, but you didn't know what you didn't know, and people had fear for you, because they didn't know, they hadn't ridden a unicycle before, and you were saying, I want to hop on and ride this thing. So how can people that find themselves in the spot where they're learning a bunch of things, they're excited about it, they feel like there's a million things, endless things to learn, but they've got to learn it all before they do anything because they don't want to make a mistake.
Yeah, I totally get that. People get that analysis paralysis, they call it, and they want to learn everything because they say, well, or they'll see like there's all these different ways to do real estate investing. Andy or Danny, which one's the best way?
Hmm.
And I would encourage them this, like, it doesn't really matter which road they take. Just start going down one of them. Put your butt in the seat of that bicycle, and what you learn from that will propel you towards the next thing. And even if you totally screw up, I heard a story of in fact, this was one of the students that Justin and I teach. I heard them on a podcast, and they talked about how their first mailer they absolutely screwed it up. They mailed it to the wrong person. They said the wrong thing, and it was a total flop and a bust. And people could say that's a failure, but I would say that's absolutely not a failure. They just learned what not to do at that point, right? Like
Right.
Edison with the light bulb. But if they were so fearful of like, okay, wait a second, now what list do I need to mail? Like, what exactly do I need to say to them? What color does the postcard need to be? How big does it need to be? And if they kept going down that, they're not going to learn, and they don't even know the right questions to ask because they haven't taken any action yet. And that's something that's interesting that you told me last week when we were together. You were like, um, you said something about certain people don't even know the right questions to ask because they haven't even taken the action, the prerequisite action to ask the right question to somebody, right? It's almost a waste of a person's time if they're super if there's a guy that's super experienced and these newer investors can go ask this person any question they want. They're almost going to waste
Hmm.
that experience with just nonsense questions, right? That they've proven that they've never taken action, they've never done anything. And I would say that one of the most important things in real estate investing, and frankly in life in general, is just taking action, just starting. So to come back to where we started here, I said I started running. I know nothing about running. I don't have any running friends. But what I did the first day is when I decided that I said, you know what, I'm going to run. The first thing I did was I actually recorded myself because I've got a video blog. So I started recording it. But I said, I've never run more than a mile in my life, but I'm going to go run. And that's it. That first day, I actually went out and started running. And I've refined things from there. I've learned things. I had some pains in places where I didn't know what that was. I went to a running store. They said, you need running shoes. I didn't know this. So, I mean, you learn those things as you go. I learned, oh, I need running shoes. Oh, I might need this brace. Oh, I might need to stretch out after a run. Like all these things. But I didn't know that when I got started. I just put on some shoes. I went outside and put one foot in front of the other and started running. So
Yeah,
it's the same for real estate or riding a bike.
it's a great analogy, and that's and one I like to share too, and it's one that we talked about was if I'm taking a trip, I'm driving up to Chicago, and I'm in San Antonio, and it's nighttime. I don't need my headlights of my car to illuminate the entire path all the way to Chicago for me to get there. I just need my headlights to illuminate just what's in front of my car so I don't run into anything and kill myself. And so it's basically, you illuminate the path, you learn what you need to learn to take that first step. I don't need to call ahead up to St. Louis and say, "Hey, is there something blocking the road?" It's just it's pointless. It's such a waste of time. And if I'm busy doing that, I'm not focused on moving and getting closer there. I'm wasting time, not getting anywhere. And so if we talk about it with respects to that, what's the first part? What's the first so many yards of illumination for people to get into this business? What are those first things to learn about so that they can start taking an action immediately and putting one foot in front of the other?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first place I would start might be not what everyone would think. I would start with kind of the end in mind. What are you trying to do? What is it that you want to accomplish in your life? Do you hate your job, or do you want passive income? Do you just want an active job? Do you want to flip properties? Like, what is it you're trying to accomplish there? And if you start with that, what is you're trying to accomplish? Then you can pick a little direction, right? Pick a direction of something. So I would find that. I would just, and once you find that, do a little bit of educating, right? Because you don't want to, you'd like to cut the learning curve a little bit if possible. But when you find what it is you want to do, and you've just, like for me, it was just like, hey, I want some passive income. I want real estate. I didn't have it totally defined, but I said, I need a property. And then I just started looking for a property, right? And I didn't even have the criteria. People said, what were criteria you're trying to do? How are you analyzing your stuff? I had no idea how to analyze a property. I didn't know 1% rules, 2% rules. I didn't know that stuff. I said, okay, this thing is probably going to be worth this when it's fixed up. I can buy it for less, and I can put my blood, sweat, and tears in between there. And I hope at the end of this thing, I come out with some money. And that was really my journey. And I didn't even know how much money I was going to come out with. I mean, if you watch my treehouse story, I say I wanted to come out with 10 grand. I'd never even sniffed 10 grand in my whole life. That was not even in my, field of reference. Like 10 grand was a lot of money to me, and it still is a lot of money. But I didn't go into it saying I have to make this. I just went to it and say I want to make this. I put one foot in front of the other, and at the end of that, what I learned along the way, I mean, it was not even close to what I started with thinking I was going to learn. but it was just from taking the action where the real learning came. So to quantify it, you need maybe 20% information just so that you're going to get out and start doing something and what it is that something you want to do. And then you just need the 20% information so you can know to do something, and then just take that next step. And the rest of the 80% of your education is going to come from you took this step and you learned from that step, and you took the next step and you learned from that step, and you refine your efforts along the way. And then you'll also meet people along the way that you'll be magnetized to because, wow, this person is where I want to be along the path. Then you'll be able to ask them questions. Now, the questions you're going to ask them after you've taken 5 steps down the path are a lot different than the questions you didn't even know you had before you took the 5 steps. And you'll be able to ask them those intelligent questions, and they'll be able to help you and guide you because you have the knowledge of those 5 steps. And then when you take 5 more steps, you'll find somebody else. 5 more steps, you'll find somebody else. And then you'll find yourself down the road saying, wow, I didn't know what I didn't know back then, but I'm glad I didn't because I might not have taken that first step.
Right, and that's super powerful, and that's something that I try to tell to people that struggle with finding coaches and mentors, at RIA meetings and things like that. They feel like people don't give them the time of day. There's so many new people, and I think the problem usually boils down to the fact that when you approach somebody and you're looking for help, if you're asking them questions that you can quickly go online and find answers to, it's immediate turn off for the people that you're asking help from because it's a waste of their time. And it's like what you said, if you took action, you have different questions. And
Right.
so when you or I hear somebody asking us a certain question, we know immediately this guy has been to a certain place where he knows he needs an answer to that. And it's something that someone that hasn't taken action would never ask.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there are some things too for people to say, well, how do I get that 20% education? There is some 101 stuff. There's free resources out there. Like people go to the bigger pockets, and there's a lot of free resources there. You can read books on real estate. The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller is a great book as an idea starter. I've got free videos on my video channel. I love real estate stories. Danny, obviously your podcast, you've got free information on there. But once you get that information, you find a little something that's like, I want to take action on this. I want to encourage people just to jump in and start taking action. Now, there are some basic things that you need to know how to do. Like number one, I would say a deal analysis. Understand how to analyze a deal. But you don't need to know all of the nuts and bolts behind that. If you just know deal analysis, great. Start driving around your neighborhood, find a for sale by owner, look on Zillow, Redfin, whatever's available in your area, see what things are selling for, go to some open houses, ask what they're asking for that house, walk around it, kick the tires. I mean, just start looking at real estate in your area, and you can start analyzing deals, if you will. You'll know what stuff is kind of selling for, and you'll be able to recognize from that analysis, is something a good deal or not a good deal? Like, if you have no clue what houses are even selling for in your area right now, or areas that you want to buy properties, then why don't you just go out there and say, if I want to buy in this county, what are houses selling for in that county? Start there. What are they even selling for? And as you start taking those steps in action, you'll really start to recognize, you'll start gaining your education, especially in your local market, of what does it take to fix things up? What do things sell for? What do things rent for? Start asking these questions as you're taking these steps. And I promise you, as you start to do that, the action side of that, 80% of your education is going to come from that action and the subsequent questions that come from taking action.
Absolutely. No, that's a perfect point. And when you start doing that, you find clarity, right? You start finding your path. You meet somebody. It's because you're open and receptive to finding what you're looking for, by being out there and being about taking action, meeting people, talking to people, seeing properties. And honestly, whenever we started doing marketing directly to sellers, try to get people to call us that need to sell property. And really, I'm pretty sure that the first several we went to, I had no intention at all of actually buying those houses because
Mm-hmm.
it took the pressure off of me. I just said, I'm just going to go, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to, there's no pressure for me to put this thing under contract. I just want to get the experience
Yep.
so that whenever the real deal, home run deal comes up, I've gone through the fire and I'm not as nervous and I'm more clearly focused and I know what I need to ask and what I need to do. So those first ones they were just practice.
Yeah.
I had no idea what to ask. I felt like I was just following somebody around their house,
Yeah.
and just like, asking about, that's a nice bookcase you have. I don't know. It's just ridiculous. But, and then when you leave and you realize that, wow, I didn't really ask or see the water heater. I don't know if that's old and leaking. I didn't see, the AC unit, all these kind of things that you learn, by doing that. So that's a good way to do it. It's like you said, go out there without the intention, go to an open house without actually thinking you're going to make some kind of crazy offer on it. Just go to the open house.
Yep. Just start doing that. Just start taking action on stuff. And people, yeah, I've said this, and while you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, I've got a lot of friends. I've got friends that are non-real estate friends, and they know since I'm a friend of theirs. With all my friends, I'm open with them. Anything you guys want to know, if I've got anything that you want to know, I'll definitely help you with that. But and I think I've even offered some like stuff that I've got that I'll sell. We've got some real estate training that we'll sell to people, and I'll offer to my friends. You know, don't tell anybody this, but I'll offer them like, hey, for free. You can log in using my account. You can check stuff out. But they don't even know enough to know that that stuff is valuable. But to somebody that's taken that first 20% of steps and actions, and they've tried on their own to analyze properties and to comp things and look at repairs and stuff, I could give that same information to them and charge them for it, and it truly can be worth 10 times as much to them, even though they paid for it, than the person that was just like, they got it for free and didn't even recognize what they had because they'd never even taken the first steps down the road. So, yeah, absolutely, it starts with just somebody taking action. And then once you do that, you'll see like all of that stuff will then click for you like, wow, that's gold, right? That can be gold. And somebody else is just like, I don't even know what that is. So
Right. Yeah, I'm still learning about the sandwich lease option to make sure that I have that tool in my toolbox.
there you go.
But
See? And then when you
I
see
still have
a guy,
never learned about doing that, so I never needed it. But anyway,
yeah, I've done lots and lots of deals. I've never done a sandwich lease option. Never. And so I mean, it's not something that I doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's like you don't have to know everything about everything. But if I wanted to do one of those, I would start taking action just like anybody else. I'd put my butt in the seat. I would start going that direction, and I would find somebody ultimately to ask those questions to, and I would definitely make it happen. But I would learn and trip and fall just like everybody else would when they go. So
yeah, absolutely. And one of the things too, as far as like what specific things that people you mentioned going out to open houses, looking at properties, looking on Redfin, Zillow, different things just to see, and then even Realtor.com just to see what house prices are in those different areas. Finding areas, just an extension of that is sort of finding areas where there's rehabs going on. So these are sort of areas that are at least 20 years old or maybe a little bit older. And when you drive through, you'll see some roll-off dumpsters. You'll see some trailers in the driveway with a bunch of construction debris. You want to find those areas. That's where people are able to find these houses that are in disrepair, buy them cheap enough, and then sell them for a nice, decent profit because people are buying on new loans in those areas, the retail areas. And so the key is sort of like picking a couple areas in town like that, figuring out where those are, driving those areas, and learning every single thing you can about them. And there's so many things that you can pick up just by driving. And a lot of people call it driving for dollars, where you're looking for vacants in those areas. But it's more than that because you can find contractors, you can find other investors, you can find landlords, you can find all sorts of real estate people and people that you need on your team while doing that. It's just incredible.
yeah, it's so interesting. We're talking about this is just about taking action, right? Putting your butt in the seat and doing something, even if you feel like, well, that's a low value task. I shouldn't be doing that. I should be doing something else. I remember a lot of different instances starting in real estate. Of course, I started like everybody else with no knowledge of stuff. I found a guy who was paying cash for properties. I took him to lunch. I picked his brain, right? Even though people don't like that term. And I asked him a bunch of questions so I could learn about flipping properties. So I learned that stuff from him. I went on his job sites, like you said, and I walked around. What's this? What's that? Why did you do this? What did you pay for this? How much did it cost to fix it up? Learned all those things from asking him questions and walking the job site. I wanted to learn how to do short sales years ago when short sales were the thing. I knew a guy that was doing short sales, and I told him, I said, look, I will come and I will do grunt work for you for free. And I did things like I drove around. He showed me the notice of defaults were. I drove around. I knocked on doors, not knowing anything. I just talked to the people. He said, you need to get them to sign up this paperwork. I said, great. So I went up there. I knocked doors and tried to get people to sign up paperwork. When they signed up the paperwork, it used to be called, I mean, it's a short sale packet. They still do these short sale packets. So I put together the whole short sale packets, the cover letters, the repair sheets. Took all the pictures, put together the HUD to send the offer to the bank. I did all that stuff for him because he knew how to do it. And I said, I will do it for you for free. And from doing that, he taught me how to do short sales, and I've done a lot of short sales since then and made a lot of money doing that. But it was because I was willing to offer my services for free to learn those things. Another thing I did was I wanted to understand more about the title process because in Utah we do it's title, it's not an attorney. And I actually went and worked part time for a title company for free. People, a lot of people don't know that me. I went there and worked part-time at title company for free, and they're like, "Why are you here?" Because I was buying some properties
Why
here
are
and
you
there.
here?
But I mean, that escrow officer that I was buying some properties, and using their title services, they let me come in. I mean, why wouldn't they, right? I came in like one day a week for like 4 hours just for free, just to do some stuff on the title side because I wanted to understand that. And it might blow people's minds, but that's the level of intensity. You need to have this like thirst for knowledge. You just need to like go and not just read the book knowledge, but go in there and say like real world, like what's going on here and how can I learn from that? People doing stuff. And like I just had this fire, and I guess I still do in different things in my life, but I just had this fire of like I wouldn't be denied. No one would tell me no. And if there was something that somebody had, if somebody was where I wanted to be, you couldn't stop me from being there. I was going to do whatever it took. I would do what they did. I would ask them questions. If they would shut me down, I'd go to somebody else. Like I just had this fire of like I'm going to take action until I figure this thing out.
Yeah, it's amazing. And an idea too for things like title companies, if you find the ones that other investors are using, just being at the title company, how much information can you find out from that? Depending on what they let you have access to help with. But, you find out sort of, who's buying how many houses, because typically investors have, the title company, the closer that they usually use, and they just always use them. And so if you even ask around at the title company, now I'm getting into specific things here, but,
Yeah, yeah.
just ideas that come up from the talk and conversation, and then find out like who's buying the most. And then you've got somebody that you can approach and you've been working at their title company, and have like who their closer is, and it's a way to spark up the conversation, and then find out like based on the properties that you see that they're closing, like what type of properties they're buying, and could target those areas, find out their criteria, find them properties.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And people, I mean, I've told people this before too. If you go to somebody and you offer your services, they might not be hiring, but how many people are going to turn you down? I mean, Danny, right now we haven't even discussed this, but I know you do software stuff. You're really smart with software, and you got a software company in addition to your real estate. And I know nothing about that software. But if I came to you and I said, Danny, I want to work for you on the software side. I'm willing to work for free. I'm willing to do whatever it is you need done. Am I hired?
No, absolutely.
I mean, working for free, right? And if you have that attitude, you're going to learn. You're going to learn from stuff. So if you don't know where to start, go find someone who is where you want to be and go offer to work for them for free. If you don't have time, and part time's fine, right? Nights and weekends. But if you do that, it won't be very long before you're going to work yourself into that situation, that organization, and you're going to learn what's on the inside track, and then you're going to go do stuff on your own as well. So um, there's no excuse for not trying. There's no excuse for not taking action and doing something and moving towards your dreams. And first, I mean, it all starts from the very beginning when I said I would figure out what it is that you want, right? You don't need to know all the steps. Just figure out what it is you're kind of trying to do. You can just start by saying, I want to flip a property. And I think that's an experience everybody should have. My little brother had that experience for the first time a year and a half ago. He wanted to flip a property. And even though I flipped hundreds of properties, I can't transfer that information to him. He can't put his head on my head and by osmosis me give him that experience. He has to experience that for himself, even though he's seen some stuff. So he went forward, he bought a property, he fixed it up, and he sold it. And from that experience, what he made money, but what people cannot take from him is that experience of actually having done it. And no one can do your first flip for you. No one can get your first rental for you. So I want to encourage you guys again to go out there and do something and take action on that item that you said you wanted to do. And even if you fail through it, even if you lose money, I don't think that's a failure because you're going to learn so much in that process and you'll make it up in spades on the future in the future projects and deals that you do.
Right, and I think that's why I like finding like doing putting some of those ideas together, finding the people that are doing a lot of properties, find out what they're paying for houses, their criteria, finding those types of deals for them. You can start to make some money on those and learn in the process without even risking a whole lot at all. Really, what you're just
Right.
risking is your time. And if people aren't willing to do that, I mean, it's mostly boiled down to not wanting to get out of their comfort zone. If you keep doing what it was a Jim Rohn, I think, says, like, if you keep doing what you've always done, you're always going to have what you have or get what you've
Yeah.
always got.
Yep.
If you want something different, you're going to have to do something different. And doing something different is almost always uncomfortable,
Yep.
and you're going to make a mistake. You're going to say something stupid. People are going to look at you funny, but get over it. Like, do it, have it happen, and don't let it phase you. And next time, I guarantee you won't make the same mistake.
Yeah. Another small example of this, and hopefully we're not beating a dead horse here, but for those of you people that don't know who I am, I do real estate wholesale and retail, mostly wholesale in Utah and New Mexico And last year I started in Indiana, and people say, why did you go there? It was kind of random why I went to those different states. But I can tell you this, wherever you're listening from, wherever your backyard is, I could come into your backyard and still do real estate. Now, I don't know anything about your backyard, fill in the blank, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, whatever. I don't know anything about it. But what I do know is I can come into your backyard and do it. But I'm going to take the same process that I've learned every state from. I'm going to have to relearn that for that area. If I chose to come to San Antonio, Danny's like, no, no, come to San. If I had to come to San Antonio, I don't know anything about San Antonio. I don't know good areas. I don't know bad areas. I don't know buyers. I don't know sellers. I don't know title companies or attorneys. I don't even know if they're in a trust deed or mortgage state. I have no idea. But it all starts with saying, my intent is I'm going to go into fill in the blank, San Antonio. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to start doing properties. It starts there, and then you just start taking action. What do I need? Ask those questions. I need this. I need that. I need buyers. I need sellers. I need contacts. I need contractors. I need a title company. Boom, boom, boom. You start taking those steps and taking action. I guarantee you, just like it was in Indiana, I started in Indiana May or June of 2015. And right now, we've got buyers, sellers, contractors. We've got title companies. We've got all that stuff. But we didn't have that when we first started. But we just took action, and we've just every step of the way we've been learning and growing and getting better. And it's no different from anybody starting anywhere from ground one. You can do it, and believe that you can do it. If anybody else can do it, you can do it. What one man can do, another can do. Believe in yourself and just start taking action. Put your butt in the seat and start going.
Right, ride that unicycle.
Ride the unicycle.
Ride the unicycle. And something too to mention when thinking more in depth about this, and I'm trying to remember back whenever I was getting started, and how long I felt like it took. It took 6 months, I think, for me to find my first deal, and it was starting to feel like, I don't know, is this normal? Does it take this long? And just that whenever you hear about people, flipping houses and doing real estate, it seems like overnight success, or they really got into this and did it really fast. Like you said, you went into Indiana and you didn't know all those things, you learned them very fast. And, just because the talk was over a short amount of time, it seems like it was just instant, but you've been through the experience before. Um, where am I going with this? But it was basically, that when things look like they happen quickly for other people, usually it's really not the case. And understand that it does take time, and you don't have to be an overnight success. You won't be an overnight success. To be patient and let the little pieces of like bits of action that you take build on themselves, and eventually you will get there. But it all does begin with what Andy was talking about, with knowing, like setting that goal. I want to do this. Like I want
Yeah.
to buy a house, an investment property to flip, and it could be as simple as that.
Yeah. I've got, so when you were talking about that, it made me think of, I don't know if I've ever told you about my friend Ryan. Did I ever tell you about my friend Ryan? He's
I
from
don't think so.
Texas too.
No, I don't think
So
so.
So 4 or 5 years ago, I met my friend Ryan. He's from Texas, named Ryan Weber from Amarillo, Texas, and we started doing. So I met him at a conference in Denver. Right, it was the BP conference in Denver. He was speaking there, and after the conference, after his talk, we had dinner together and we connected. And we were both very similar, similar aged. We were doing similar things in real estate. He was doing a little bit more than me, and he asked me about my market. It was Salt Lake City was my primary market at the time, and it was a lot bigger than Amarillo, Texas. Because Amarillo, Texas, is not that big. And he said, I did 80 deals one year in my market. And I was like, whoa, it blew my mind because I'd never done 80 deals in a year. And here was a guy that was just like me in a smaller market doing 80 deals. So that right there, that relationship that we had together, he, in essence, all he did for me was increase my mindset. And I call it, he gave me permission to be bigger than I was. And he asked me, he said, Andy, because we were fast friends, he asked me, he said, Andy, why aren't you doing more? He says, why aren't you the 800-pound gorilla in your market? And I didn't have a good answer for that, right? Um, he and I did a bunch of accountability calls, and every month we would do this accountability calls, and I decided to start pushing my goals from there. And I was just, he would follow along with me as I was doing that. But actually, I don't tell a lot of people. I mean, not many people know this, but um, he actually passed away tragically, just driving down the street in his truck one night and passed away. It was really hard on me. It was a while ago. It was really hard on me. But I was asked to give a talk a year ago. It was in April. And I said, sure, I'll give a talk. Like in one of these local Rio groups. And they wanted me to talk. They said, well, whatever you want to talk about. So I was putting it on my calendar. So I put it in my phone, my Google Calendar. And I had put it in my phone for that date that I was supposed to be giving the talk. Ryan was a contact in my phone, right? And on that date, it was his birthday.
Oh,
So
wow.
that made me think of him. So I knew right then the talk that I had to give. And the talk that I had to give, I titled Inspiration, Mindset, and Pushing Yourself to the Next Level. And basically, I knew that I'd go in there, and that talk was going to be basically for him. He gave me permission to be bigger than I was. So I wanted to tell my story, my journey from going from zero to 100 plus deals a year and my steps in between there. And he was a huge part of that. And I wanted through that talk to tell, not only give other people inspiration, but give them that mindset and permission to be bigger than they were so they can push that next level, whatever that means for them. And I did that for him. And in that talk, it was a 30 to 40-minute keynote that I gave. I actually ended up crying. I got really emotional with it. Because still to this day, I mean, Ryan meant a lot to me. He still means a lot to me. So anyway, I've got that talk recorded for anybody that wants to listen to that. I know we can point them in that direction. I sell it on my website, but we can give it to your people for free if they want. But
Yeah,
I
that'd be
just
great because I'd like to see it. Yeah.
yeah, and forgive the emotional nature of it because I do get emotional when I talk about Ryan and how he passed away and how much he meant to me. But truly, if people want to talk, I'd share about from my, I'd share with you guys today. Initially, Rich Dad Poor Dad, that got my mindset going. Then I found other local mentors and I had partnerships and things. But it was not until meeting him that it pushed my mindset to a larger level. And after meeting him, I did a lot more deals and actually share through after meeting him what else push me to that next level. But I share my whole progression right there. And my main point of that whole talk is to do what Ryan did for me. I want anybody that listens to that to give themselves permission to be bigger than they are right now in anything. It doesn't have to be real estate. Whatever your goal and dream is in life, you can be bigger than you already are. But it starts with that belief. You need to believe. You need somebody to grab you and say, Danny, why? You are more than you are right now. You can be bigger. You can be better. And when that person tells you that you believe them because maybe they're at a higher level than you are, or you perceive them at a higher level. Anybody else can say it, but if somebody says it's a higher level and you believe them for some reason, and then it clicks for you finally that you can be bigger than you are, and that's what it takes, and then you can catapult yourself to that next level and keep moving on. So I hope everybody listens to that, and if you do, I would love any emails, feedback, or whatever they thought about. Because I would love to affect even one person's life like Ryan affected mine, because he had a huge effect on my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's very well said, and it's true. No matter where you're at in life, when somebody tells you you know, just speaks to where you're at and asks you how come you're not doing more, and it just like to say it's okay, you can do more, you can be more, and it's a lot easier to do that because somebody's sort of told you it was possible and they've done it, so it is possible.
Yeah, and they gave you that permission. They say, Danny, you can be bigger than you are in whatever category in life, and you believe them. Because I know our moms and dads always tell us that, but for whatever reason, it's like sometimes it takes an outside influence, mentor, coach, whatever that you perceive at a higher level. That comes to you. Like for example, if you're playing basketball, Michael Jordan comes to you, like sees you on the playground, comes up to you and says, "Hey, you've got a ton of talent. You can make it to the NBA." Now, if he says that to one specific kid on that court, if that kid takes that to heart and he believes it, if you think you can or think you can't, you're right. That kid might make it to the NBA just because he has that belief. Where the other kids say, "Well, he didn't say that to me. I can't do it." Well, if they don't think they can, they can't. Whether it's a placebo effect, whatever that is, something about whatever the mind can conceive, we can achieve.
Right.
But you need to believe it. You need to believe that thing. So,
Yeah, and that's something I forgot what it was. I had seen something where somebody had achieved some great thing, and when asked, or somebody was maybe commentating about it, like somebody on sports or something, and it was all about the fact that that person that achieved that and did better than everybody else, the reason for it was because they believed that they could do it more than anybody else believed they could do it. Like in their heart and mind and everything, they were just more convinced than anybody else that they were the person to be there.
yeah, it's so funny. In fact, not to bring it all back to running, because again, I don't really consider myself a runner, although I kind of am a runner now. The reason I wanted to start doing the running, because it's a mindset. It's a mind game.
Hmm.
Because it's interesting if you're going out on a run and you've got to do a 4 mile run that day, your mindset is towards the end of that 4 mile run, you're kind of like done with that run, right? When it's a 6 mile run, you're not done until like kind of the end of that, like 5.5 miles. You're like, okay, now I'm done with that run. 10 mile run, it's the same thing. What's the difference? It's just your mindset. Whatever your expectation is. If you tell yourself, I can do this, you can do it. You just have to keep going and doing it, right? It's our minds are such powerful things, but
Hmm.
we discount that a lot. We really do discount a lot. So, what one man can do, another can do, and you are powerful. You are as powerful as any other human being. Who are you not to be great? You have permission to be bigger and do anything that anyone else has done, and even frankly push beyond that what anyone else has done because you can do that. But it starts with that belief. You need that belief. Surround yourself with people who push you and believe in you, and not the crabs in the bucket that want to pull you down when you're trying to climb your way out. Surround yourself with people who are going to encourage you and push you and make you be better than you already are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it reminds me of sort of the what is it, the Art of War, Sun Tzu, or I'm probably really messing that up. But anyway, it talks about win in your mind first. Win in your mind first. And, it goes with the whole getting out of your comfort zone. You're going to feel uncomfortable, but when you do find that you're feeling uncomfortable, you observe that. You become, you understand that that's where you are. You find out that, you're thinking about the fact that you are uncomfortable. And then the way to overcome that is to stop, realize it, maybe take some deep breaths, and then in your mind imagine yourself already overcoming that or doing what you're finding difficult to do. If whether it's to go up to talk to that guy that's like one of the biggest investors in town, and you're so, frightened and anxious, and you don't know what you're going to say, stop and breathe, think about it, and imagine yourself talking to them and conversing, and just being friendly with each other, and then just go and do it. Just imagine it, and then, the calm that comes from doing that is amazing.
Yeah, and that's where all the growth comes. If you look back on your life, and I'm sure everybody, when you look back on your life, the times that were hardest in your life, whatever, if you had to go through, heaven forbid, you had to beat cancer, or you had a kid that had an illness, or you had an illness, or you had to go through a hard college class, or whatever it is you had to do in your life that was hard. Think back to yourself, and you know this is true. That was the greatest period of growth in your life. You learned the most from doing that. So we started this with a bicycle. You know how to ride a bike. You're going to get on a bike and ride it. It's no big deal. But when a unicycle is presented to you, you're scared to do that. Well, look at that unicycle now and getting in that seat as the growth. If you're scared, that means you're about to get a huge period of growth. And as soon as that's what we are as human beings, we're just here to try to grow and learn and progress. And if you're always denying yourself the opportunities, if you stay in your comfort zone, there's no growth there. You've got to push yourself. You've got to try to do and be more than you already are so that you can accomplish something and you can grow. So don't be afraid of those scary things, those things that you haven't done before, and just recognize this is where I'm going to grow. This is going to make me who I want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, yeah, it's not, oh, I don't want to do that because I will feel very uncomfortable, anxious, and it's, oh, look at this opportunity. I'm going to grow now. I'm going to force myself to do this. I'm going to grow. I'm going to tackle it head, just go into this and get it done and just do whatever it takes.
Yeah,
And while you were saying that too, I thought of something I had read a long time ago or heard somewhere. And it was about talking about, look up on the mantle are all those trophies from way in the past. Like usually, when you think about it, like when you're younger and you're doing sports and achieving things, a lot of times you get all those awards. And then after that, like after school for a lot of people, nothing really changed. Like they'd get into this routine and never ever grow.
yeah, that's true. And I think I asked you that when you came out here last week. I said, "What are you doing to challenge yourself? What are you doing to push yourself in your life right now?" For me, I've tried to do a few different things, but running is definitely one of those. Running 26.2 miles for me, for a guy that never run more than like 1 mile in his life since like seventh grade, right? That was a thing for me. I thought I can push myself there. I can do that. And I think that all of us as human beings owe it to ourselves to have one or two or a few categories in our life where we're pushing ourselves. We're making sure we're growing because you're either moving forward or backwards. There's no staying stagnant, right? You're either working the muscle or it's atrophying. You're working your mind or it's atrophying. You just need to always be moving forward in your life. And if you're not challenging yourself, if like Danny said, those trophies are dusty and they're from the past, what have you done recently to challenge yourself? I love that. I love that idea. Dust off those trophies. No, go find a new
Yeah,
trophy. Leave them
that's right. Yeah, yeah. Put those in the garage. It's time to put some new ones up there. Like
there.
make the
Yeah.
space and just plan to fill it, right?
Yeah. And the
We
only
need to
I
go
was going to
ahead.
say, the only failure is in not doing something. So I feel like they're pretty big goals for myself every year in different categories of my life. But in my wholesale company, I've set a pretty big goal for myself this year to grow by 33%. And last year we grew by like 100%. To grow another 33% is huge. But it's like, look, the only failure is in not trying to grow and stretch and hit that goal. Like, why not? And you get some people, and I've had some people on my team that are like, oh man, now our goals are increased, and how are we ever going to hit those? And I'm like, no, we're going to hit them. We're going to figure out a way. We're going to ask new questions. We're going to stretch to new, to new links. We're going to find a way to hit this goal, and we owe it to ourselves. Because if I just set the same goal, where's the growth in that? We're not
Yeah,
learning
yeah.
anything, pushing the
Right.
envelopes, and not really about the money always, right? It's about you owe it to yourself to do something, to push, to be something, so that not only for yourself, but also so that you can influence other people in a positive manner. So you can look back and say, you can do this because I did that. And then you can look up the mountain and say, I'm going to go do that because he did that, right? And always be moving forward, always be progressing.
Yeah, nice. Nice. So I think, we pretty much covered a lot of ground. And I think with mindset in this series that we're doing in the podcast for getting started in flipping houses, like starting with this right foundation, with this right mindset, I think will help people as they, find that, okay, well, I've been learning about all these different things. Let me just narrow this down and set this one thing that I want to do. I want to get this one house. I want to get one call from a motivated seller. I want to do this one thing. And then I'm just going to find out what I need to do right now to start making that happen. Whether it's driving for dollars, driving neighborhoods, putting marketing out, which is scary at first. You've got your phone number out on a sign on a pole outside somewhere.
Yep.
But just do it, right? You get the call and say hello and say you want to sell your house and fumble through that conversation like I did. I think I told you that story whenever I was there, right? How that first phone call, I had to throw the phone to my wife. I couldn't even answer the first phone call.
Yeah. But you're a guy that takes massive action. You put your number on the sign. You put the sign out. You didn't take the first phone call, but you took all the subsequent phone calls, and that's why you are who you are today. It's just, and also, I mean, for people that don't know, maybe you've already talked about this, but we talked for the first time a few weeks ago. We connected, and you mentioned that you've gone up to see Justin, and I said, hey man, if anytime you want to come out to Utah, I'd love for you to come visit me. And you were like, seriously? I said, yeah. And it was like later that day, you sent me a text and said, hey, is this day or this day better for you next week? I mean, I had huge respect for that, for anybody that's going to put in their butt in that bicycle seat. And you just booked that plane ticket. You came out here, and it was awesome. We had a great experience, but you didn't know what that was going to be. I could
Right.
have been some weirdo, right? That's just a testament to you taking action in your life
Yeah.
and just doing something, right? Other people would say, well, maybe he really didn't want to invite me, or I've got other stuff going on, or I don't want to get on a plane. I don't want to spend the money. You were just like, nope, I want this. I'm going to take action and do it right now. What's the next step I need to do? Text Andy, see what date. What's the next step? Buy the plane ticket. What's the next step? Book the hotel. Like boom, 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 boom. You did it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it
That's
was a
who
lot of
you
fun, and yeah. And I'm gonna go out there again and stay a whole week.
come on
Andy's looking
down.
at me like, I'm just
Come
kidding.
on down.
You need to come to San Antonio this time. You got to get somebody out here
I do
where
need to
it's
come.
it's sunny. I have to tell you though, when I was leaving the next morning, it was snowing, and I was thinking, you know what? I've never ever driven in snow.
Yeah,
And my
what'd you think?
seven, it wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't like it was a snowstorm or anything, but
Yeah.
and thankfully the highway was all clear and stuff like that. But my 7-year-old daughter's never even seen snow.
Wow. Wow.
But yeah, we need to go to the mountains. I think we're gonna go pretty soon. Take them out to the mountains and show them all that stuff. But um, yeah, so this is great, and I think what we're gonna do is make sure that we have on the show notes page, which is at flippingjunkie.com/19, flippingjunkie.com/19 is where the show notes page is, and we'll have Andy said you said that you were gonna send that over, right? That talk about inspiration from Ryan about
Yep.
Ryan that you did. If you could provide that, that'd be awesome, and we'll put that up on the show notes page. And is there a way that people can contact? What's the best way for people out there to contact you,
Yeah, the
or
best way
get
is,
into or find you?
yeah, you can find me. So one of the things I'm passionate about, and you'll learn more about me if you come do this. Um, my older brother and I started working together a couple of years ago on this project we call I Love Real Estate Stories. I'm passionate about real estate investing. I'm a real estate entrepreneur, wholesale company, retail company. I do loans. I'm just passionate about all that stuff. My older brother is passionate about music, film, documentary film, all that stuff. So we blended that, and he actually makes a video for me every week. It's got kind of real estate inspiration kind of stuff on it, and there's a lot of comedy and education, entertainment, all that stuff. But if you guys want to do that, YouTube, you can go to YouTube and say, type in "I love real estate stories." you can type in Andy McFarland Real Estate, and you'll find it's called I Love Real Estate Stories. And we do a video every week. And I would love, and Danny mentioned earlier, one of my goals this year is to move forward and get more subscribers there. I would love it. And it's all free. I would love it if you guys would go there, check it out. If you like it, hit the subscribe button, and that would mean a lot to me. And you can reach out to me through, there's my email's always on there. You can just make a comment in the notes in the videos and stuff. But that's how you can find me. That's where I am. I love real estate stories.
Yeah, and it's great, and it's really high quality stuff. I mean, these aren't things where somebody just pulled the iPhone out and started recording something and thought it was going to go viral or whatever. But I mean, these are well put together, very information packed videos. So definitely check those out and subscribe, because Andy's got, and you've got quite a few. How many do you have now? Did you say?
Yeah, we got like 80 or 90 videos, but don't be intimidated by that. We feel like they're all good. They're all like our little babies and our kids we put out into the world. We love them all, but just start with one, and if you like it, go to the next one. But we appreciate anybody checking them out.
Yeah, and to say something about that too, my morning ritual, I found that, sometimes when there's a lot of material like that you want to go through, and sometimes you never do it because it's just overwhelming. Like there's so many episodes. So you listen to one or two and then just kind of like, well, there's so many, whatever. But if you just pace yourself and say every morning I'm going to watch one, like I find I get through so many more things that way instead of just giving up, because it becomes a routine. So
Yep.
anyway, that's something you can do with his thing. And also hopefully with this podcast for everybody, weekly, subscribe on iTunes to Flipping Junkie podcast. As I mentioned, we're doing the series that's going to go in order for mindset, and then, being able to analyze deals, find money, contractors, rehab, all that kind of stuff in a proper order, sort of like a course for free through a podcast. So make sure you subscribe, and if you like the show, please rate and review us on iTunes. I would very much appreciate it. And be sure to check out our real estate investor websites at leadpropeller.com. It makes a lot of this possible. And thanks, Andy, again for being on the show. Really do appreciate it, and really enjoy talking to you.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me, Danny. It was a pleasure.
All right. Well, take care, and I guess I'll get a text from you soon about coming to San Antonio. All right.
All right. Thanks, Daddy.
All right. Take care.